In a proficiency-based, learner-centered world, how do you approach creating a daily lesson?
Well, I think that the fundamentals of daily lesson planning don't change. You've got to adapt your lesson on a daily basis to students' needs, but some of the things that might look a little bit different in a student-centered proficiency-based classroom is that you might be delivering sometimes two or three different lessons in one class period versus one lesson that you have planned for that day. And so that's something that might look a little bit different, but again, in a student-centered classroom, you're going to have two or three different groups of students potentially working at two or three different paces. And so maybe your lessons are a little bit shorter, but they're the same canon of lessons that you would have queued up anyway for students. It's just that you may be delivering two or three of them in any given period based on where students are at. Some strategies that you can use to adapt to this approach include using instructional videos, having students do independent learning activities, but the fundamentals of daily lesson planning, you still have to know your students, you have to know where they are, you have to adjust your lesson plans to their needs. It just may be that there's going to be, a little bit more variety in the number of lessons that you deliver in any given period.
Great. In a proficiency-based, learner-centered world, how do you approach creating a daily lesson?
Daily lessons are focused on students. They're focused on the learning targets that we've established in our RSU. They're focused on differentiating for students, addressing the student needs within my classroom. I come into my class with a daily lesson plan. It isn't always the plan that we end up with by the end of the class. Lessons are focused on allowing students time to learn and time to ask questions. My direct instruction is usually relatively short so that kids have time to reflect, they have time to talk to each other. But really the lessons are just focused on student needs.
Okay, Ben. In a proficiency-based, learner-centered world, how do you approach creating a daily lesson?
Students are in different places in the curriculum, and so a daily lesson has to do with making sure that we meet the instructional needs of all our students. So a daily lesson may be a review session for some students. It may be new instruction for other students. Typically, I have a teacher pace calendar, so I have a syllabus that's published. And so each day the students know what lesson they can expect that I'll be teaching, but it's not always mandatory for all students to listen depending on where they are pace-wise. So if a student is accelerated and needs a little bit of a refresher, they can come in and listen to the instruction, but also they may work in another small group that is not focus on today's lesson. So as far as creating the daily lesson, I focus typically on what I've published to teach during that day, but also I prepare for students who are either behind pace, ahead of pace, and so there's a little bit of the rote day by day that maybe in an older system we would have just step by step by step of teaching day by day, but also understanding that there's some individualized preparation that needs to happen every